All right. Happy new day, everybody. How are you? And welcome to 2023. If it actually is 2023. Another show, another time.
Who
But I wanted to throw
knows?
that out there for you anyway, right there. All right. Our good brother Ethan Lucas is back with us here today to get further into the Rich Jesus series.
We are on 11.
We're on 11. That's so cool. Who would have thought like how far this has gone? But this is pretty cool. And I know a lot of you all loving this. We do appreciate the love. And again, speaking of love, go to ethanlucas.com, see what he's got going on in his life and how you can support him to keep the word out. All right. This is the groundbreaking. All right, look, this is why me and April are here every week with him, because we really believe in what's being said here, really to the core, that this is the groundbreaking breakthrough, getting rid of all the bullshit, getting all the other stuff that'll help you have a better existence in life for you and the ones that rely upon you the most. And also don't forget, for you who are wanting to live younger, longer, open your pineal gland and also tap your source like Rich Jesus did. right here, EthanLucasMySeaLive.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up, my brother? How are you? Happy new day to you.
Good. How are you? Yeah, actually, give me 1 second. I just realized I left my hang on.
No worries.
I'm just sitting over here. I left my Bible, or my AKA my phone, sitting over on the.
You mean the show?
Yeah,
Right.
You left the show over there.
Yeah, I left the show over there. I can't. Well, I've got my old school Bible here, but it's hard to search and find things quickly. So got to have the digital one.
I got you.
Sure.
Well, as always, man, we want to start the day by thanking you for your service and dedication and really everything you're doing and the passion you deliver to everybody to help everybody's life get better here. So we really do hope that those watching in that consistently tune in are really not looking at this. We hope to entertain you, but we also hope that this really does open you up. Really.
Oh, look at that. See? Wahoo! Rich Jesus Wednesday.
Oh, there you go, man. That's it.
Exactly.
I just multiplied that by 1 million. And there we go. We got this thing. Hey, how you doing, Ronnie? Welcome back, and thanks for hanging out with us. Hey, Mike, how you doing? All right, brother, what you got today? What are you getting called to, give us today?
Well, I'm just gonna pick up where we left off last time in the notes, which let's see here. We actually didn't even get really into the notes, honestly. We did a little bit. But that happens from time to time. And it's always good when it does, because that just means that the Spirit is leading for something else that wasn't originally my idea. Of course, I try to make none of this my idea, but
which is why it's working.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Well, and that's where
you're not putting your beliefs
or
your values. You're literally just reading it and interpreting it to the best of your knowledge, which in my opinion has been the best interpretation in all of the years that we have been recording.
Yeah. Well, and going back to that idea of, I try not to make it my idea. I try to just let the Spirit lead me where it's supposed to go. Every time before I do a show, I always pray that God will think through my mind, speak through my vocal cords, none of me, all of him. And that's the attitude really that we should have with everything. And it blows me away that people, they kind of wince when they hear that. And I think it's because of it really just tends to echo or totally reek of like religious and attitude, like, oh, I'm just submitting to this religious tyrant slave master God. And of course you would wince at that, but once you change your perception and paradigm, get rid of that old programming that religion put you through, that mental and emotional and spiritual abuse that religious indoctrination put you through, you got to get rid of that PTSD, that spiritual PTSD, when you think of these concepts or hear these concepts of letting go and letting God, right? Because essentially what you're doing is if you're trying to do it, I did it my way, that type of thing, right? You're really staying in the carnal mind, because there really is no way that you individually can ever come up with that's going to be the best way. God or source always knows the best way. And why the hell wouldn't he? I mean, he's the all pervasive consciousness of all that is, was, and ever will be. So why would you be so unwilling to let God or source lead and guide you on your path of destiny. I mean, it's suicide, really, because you're saying, no, the source of all that is, was, and ever will be doesn't really know what's best for me. I do, even though I've never been here. When I say I've never been here, I don't mean your spirit that's reincarnated probably bajillions of times. I mean the you that's here and now, this specific personality that's here and now has never been here and never will be here again. So why would you want that most inexperienced personality for your life to lead your life? It's insanity.
Well, when you put it like that, Ethan, it absolutely is. I mean, seriously.
But that's exactly what it is, though.
Around like that. Again, it's the only thing that I could say. It's that powerful ego part of them that is just the ruling master.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad thing, man. Is like the fact, like you said, about, oh, I'll do it myself. I know exactly what I'm doing. And you know what? I always say this, like, this is okay. This is for me, just how I look at it. It's like, we get people who are able to be astute to guide us and give us, hey, this is what texts are looking like. Maybe there's something real to this shit, right? And we can get a baseline to work from. But at the end of the day, I think anybody is really naive to try to figure out that they got to do it themselves. Something bought us here. Something bought us here. So whatever that something is, it just makes logical sense to connect with it, or what it is, whatever it is, and to help you say, okay, look, whatever the fuck dropped me down here, place me here, give a brother a break, you know what I mean? And work through it that way, right?
Well, it's the people that don't want to let go and let God are the people that either number one are completely egotistical and full of themselves, or they're like the stubborn little toddler that wants to do it themselves because mom and dad doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, right? Or the stubborn teenager that thinks they know everything because mom and dad's stupid, or they are just, again, having that spiritual PTSD where they're being triggered by, they hear let go and let God, or I'm letting God guide my life. They associate that with that tyrannical slave master type God that religion created and ingrained in them.
God-fearing guy.
Right. That type of thing. So yeah, of course you would wince at that because that is bullshit. But here's the thing. This is all about changing your paradigm, changing your perception to where you understand that God that religion created does not exist except as an illusion. But illusions are very powerful. You ever see someone who's just totally whacked out on some kind of crazy drug? For them, all of their hallucinations are extremely real. Well, the religious experience is just like a hallucinogenic drug.
Absolutely.
And it will drive you mad. It will make you do batshit crazy things. Mm-hmm. The key is get off the drug, get off of religion, because there's nothing in this book that's religious. They took this book and made it religious. It'd be no different than, if you were on a construction site and someone decided they're going to start using an angle grinder as a hammer instead of a hammer as a hammer. They're using the wrong tool for the wrong thing, and they build this whole house using the wrong tool for the wrong thing. The house is going to fall apart. It might seem to work a little bit, but it's going to go really slow because it's not working that well. But at the end of the day, you're going to end up with poor quality. The house is going to fall apart. This is what's happening now to religion. They built their house for thousands of years, and finally now at the point where people are trying to really move into the house instead of just looking at it and talking about it, it's not working. It's falling apart. So people are leaving in droves.
Mm-hmm.
Now where do they go, right? So now it's like, and you're so right about that. People are leaving in droves. So now it's like, okay, well, where do you find an outlet? Like all that years of, when I take a look at I just little parts of the Bible or whatever that's ever been addressed, it felt to me always, and I've never personally picked one up, so which is what makes me a great candidate to watch this show, because I've never personally even read a Bible.
Dude, it's the most amazing book ever written, and when you understand it's not religious,
I get it. my interpretation of it was like it felt like if I'd go into churches or weddings and I'd hear them read shit or whatever.
Oh yeah, they pervert the fuck out of it.
I'd be like, that feels very satanic to me.
It is. It is.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's all Satanism is. It's based on taking what is true and genuine and twisting it into something counterfeit, right?
You know what? Not only are you changing the lives of so many listeners, obviously you're changing our lives personally. I never.
Well, again, it's not me. It's God working through me.
Or your message. Yes, absolutely. I never.
Do that shaking around like.
I never viewed the Bible like how you just said. Until now, I'm really starting to understand it from an entirely different point of view.
Yeah.
I never had a warm, fuzzy feeling about it before, but now I can understand it much better and see it in a different perspective. And it's very inspiring. It's
refreshing, actually, because it is. You're right, because I think a lot of people are like us. They look at it and they're like, "Fuck that, that doesn't feel right." You know what I mean?
This book here is a spiritual work of art. This is divine mysticism and hidden allegories and ancient wisdom wrapped up in very cleverly devised stories and what Jesus referred to, or those in the New Testament referred to as parables. Okay. And so when you take it in a religious way, just like anything, you could almost pick up any book and turn it into a religion. In fact, they did it with the fucking founding documents of the United States of America. There's also nothing political in the founding documents. In fact, when used properly, the Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and Constitution actually sets you free from politics. Just like the Bible, when understood and used correctly, sets you free from religion. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite. And that you're right, it is satanic, because that's what Satanism does. It takes something that was created in its original splendor and glory and twists it into something counterfeit, which, by the way, that's part of the trick too. Like the word glory, for example, that might trigger some people because they hear the word glory and they're like, that's religious. No. Go back to the actual definitions of the words. This is really simple. The word glory just means something like splendor or something in its full amazing potential on full display that's actuated to its entirety, that's completely beautiful and beyond comprehension. That's what glory means. To praise God does not mean to sit around and wave your hands in the air in a church service and sing songs and get all up in your emotions and you get the warm tingly fuzz. That's the carnal mind. That's the lower emotional carnal mind. You're having a religious experience, not a God experience. God said, or the writers of the book of Acts was saying that God said there is no way for men to worship me with their hands. He said, I made your hands. And he said, those temples and those buildings you made, what, in fact, that's the first scripture I was going to pull up. He said, what house are you going to build for me? I made everything. He's like, you're doing all this. You're like little kids pretending, which is fine for little kids to pretend, play house and all that stuff. But when they start getting twisted and, think of Jeffrey Dahmer playing house when he was a kid. Think how fucked up that would be, right? This is religion. Right. Religion is the equivalent of Jeffrey Dahmer playing house when he was a kid. People playing church is Jeffrey Dahmer playing house when he was a kid. And that's exactly how God sees it. That's why I say church is demonic and satanic. And that triggers a lot of people because they're sitting there thinking, well, man, that doesn't make any sense because I go to church and we all these nice people and these old nice ladies and all these great things that we give to the poor and blah, blah, blah. It's dude, even a serial killer loves his mother. Okay. Like you have to understand the deception. There's nothing more deceiving than something that appears 99% pure, but is 1% poison. And that's all it takes. No one's going to drink if this were a full glass of poison, someone's like, here, drink this poison. I'm not going to drink that. But what if this is pure water? This is pure alkaline, fresh spring water. But if I have a couple drops of poison in this, you're not going to know. And you're going to drink it and be like, man, that's the best water I've ever had. 5 hours later, you're dead.
When people go to churches, so like there's that whole like, okay, let me drive outside of myself, right? So there's that whole like, I have to go, I can't go. That is, I mean, more and more, it's like as I think through it and talk through it, but that is really so messed up sounding. It's like I have to go to see God now. You know what I mean? I'm getting in my car, I'm packing, I'm getting dressed up, and I'm getting to go to see God.
You're doing what Eve did. You're going outside of yourself to talk to the snakes, to find out what knowledge of good and evil, because that's all they teach you is what's good and evil, right? Their fucking version of what's good and evil, and all it does is fuck you up.
I wonder, like, if they were to be able to, like, here we go again, we're moving in, and we'll use this as a point of reference again, but as we get into 2023, I just gotta wonder now, like, what will people do? Like, what are some of the steps they'll do? I think where we're going here is really going to go away because I know, like with Christmas, for example, there was hardly any evidence of it.
It's weird.
You know what I mean? And I think this new wave of generation,
we won't be celebrating these cabal holidays anymore. In fact,
I don't think so.
I think you're dead on
with my mother last night.
Dead on.
This year we're not doing it anymore. Thanksgiving, if you really go back and research the history, you had a bunch of Native Americans being slaughtered by pilgrims and all kinds of other settlers in the New World, which wasn't the New World. You've got Christmas, which was celebrated really as a worship of Saturn and the sun god. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia during that time. The New Year is a worship of the sun god. It's actually the reason. Why would you pick the New Year on January 1st, the dead ass middle of the winter? That makes no sense. No sense. The reason they pick it is because it's called perihelion. It's when the earth and sun are closest to one another. So the day of perihelion is, and it moves between January 1st and 4th. It kind of slides back and forth because the calendar's all fucked up too, right? And just like the equinoxes slide back and forth between the 20th and the 23rd. But it's perihelion. It's sun worship. That's why they picked that for the new year. It has nothing to do with it being a new year. The new year should actually be celebrated on the vernal equinox or the spring equinox. That's when the rest of nature celebrates the new year.
Right.
All the birds and the bees and the animals and the trees come back to life, right? And all the new babies are born.
I'd like to get your perspective on why a lot of corporations, banks, it's April is their fiscal year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's spring. It makes more sense.
So for them, they're following like really what it's supposed to be like. And so
you and I talked about this on my show the other day, Jay, how Mr. Kodak, the guy who I say Mr. Kodak because I can't remember his first name, but the guy that invented Kodak film in the early 1900s, he had a whole coalition formed, and he was actually putting pressure on the legal system of the United States to switch over to this 13-month calendar with 28 days in it. And there's one extra day left. So 13 times 28 is 364. Well, there's 365 days, right? So there's one extra day left. So what they do is they set that one day outside of the calendar, the vernal equinox. That's the New Year day. It's not in any of the months. It's just one extra day. And then at the day after the vernal equinox or the spring equinox is March 1st. Okay, the first day of spring. And then it goes, and if you count it from March all the way to, it gets really obvious when you get to September, October, November, December. Look at the etymology of those words. September is 7. Septuagint is 7, right? So sept is the Latin for 7. October, that's octagon, 8. Octopus, that's supposed to be the 8th month. November comes from the Latin novum. You see it in Spanish as nueve, as 9, right? Okay. And December is Deca, 10. December. So it's supposed to be the 10th month. They fucked the whole thing all up. But the remnants are still there, just like the remnants in this book of the truth are still there, even after their translational perversions. And that's what we're breaking down here. So to kind of go back, though, to my point that I was making about why people would be so unwilling to let God or source lead and guide them in their path of destiny. It's amazing too, because even the religious people like that, I brought up the whole thing with Adam and Eve, right? And the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Think about this. And I actually posted this because I've got the 3rd volume of my book, The Jesus Q Connection, coming out this spring. Right. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are already out on EthanLucas.com. You can get both those. If you haven't gotten them yet, go download them now because Volume 3 is about to come out. But I actually posted a quote from my own book because I knew we were about to do this show, and I wanted to bring this quote up. And so I'm going to quote myself from my own book, but the reason is because it's exactly for this moment and what we're talking about. So here's the quote. Let us never forget that while religion is busy trying to get to heaven, Adam and Eve were already in heaven in the Garden of Eden, and Lucifer was already walking amongst the highest realms of heaven. What good did it do them? Until you get to a place where you stop trying to go to heaven and you start creating heaven, you will never get there. Not only will you never get there, but you will surely fall trying. And that's what happened.
So you get to a place where you stop going to heaven and start
trying to go to heaven. What is church? Great. Church is trying to go to heaven. Yep. Trying to get somebody, trying to do something to get God to do something. And that's not how the shit works. Right. God has empowered you. That's why Jesus said, go into the world and preach the gospel. What's the gospel? The good news. Again, goes back to those definitions. Like the word glory doesn't mean anything religious. The word praise doesn't mean anything religious. It's just gratitude and thankfulness. That's all it is. The word holy just means set apart. It doesn't mean anything religious. The word righteous just means to do things right or correct. It doesn't mean anything religious. All of these words, they don't mean anything religious. They applied a false definition to them that's not real to create this illusion and this deception that has you hallucinating on a spiritual drug, and it's causing you to just run amok in your life, and everything's fucked up. I mean, the church has been running the world for thousands of years. Look at where it got us.
Yeah.
You know?
But people, hey, so what's your opinion on like when you see people going to church and you'll have the minister or whatever, like put their hands on them and they, fall down and shake and stuff like that. Is that the science behind that? Is that a trained hip?
Well, sometimes it's staged. Sometimes it's kind of, they just kind of go along with it. It's like, it is sort of like shoot from the hip, freelance acting, but because the crowd, the people in the crowd that come forward to do this, because they're kind of part of this group think, this group hypnosis, they just kind of fall into it, and sometimes it is just a pure, this is the power of belief. It's just a pure belief thing. They believe so much that this is going to happen to them that it actually happens to them, just like the placebo effect.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah. So that's what most of it is. But to go back to the first scripture I was going to read, Isaiah chapter 66. I want to read to you some of the scriptures right from the beginning of it and some of my notes in my Bible on this, because it kind of pulls everything we've just been talking about for the last 15, 20 minutes into this. Verse 1, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you're going to build unto me? He's like, you're building all these churches, right? What house are you going to build me? I made all this shit, right? And he says, and where is the place of my rest? You're going to build me a house, but I don't even, you can't even build a place for me to rest? What the fuck do you think a house is? You build a house so you have a place to rest, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't need a house. If we didn't ever need to sleep, we wouldn't need houses, right? We just have buildings and we just go wherever we want and whenever we want, and we just be constant go, 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 go. We need a place of rest. That's the purpose of a house. So you say, I built the house of God. And God's like, what house you going to build me, motherfucker? I made all this shit. The rocks and the wood and all the shit you made it out of. I made that stuff. And you're going to build a house for me? And where am I going to rest? Where's my bedroom? Where's my sleep number bed? Like, dude, come on. And he's putting it. So look, the book of Isaiah is one of the oldest books in the Bible. It was being put into perspective back then. And what do? They still fucking prance around like, we got the Bible, we got the truth. Every church does that. Oh, we're the only ones going to heaven. And it's the same motherfuckers are trying to go to heaven instead of creating it. And they want to put everybody in this cult. And get everybody hopped up on this hallucinogenic spiritual drug and these experiences that are trained experiences. By the way, most of these worship leaders go to school to learn how to pull and tug on the emotional strings of people's hearts. I mean, and the ones that don't, they actually acclimate to learning it just through copying the behavior of their predecessors before them. The whole thing is insane. I mean, it's like a whole insane asylum. God looks at a church and he's like, that's a mental institution. That's not what I
Yeah.
created. In fact, I've talked about this before.
That's-
Nowhere
That's
in the
so-
Bible.
So
That
dead
is so
on.
freaking true,
Oh my
man. It's a
God. No,
mentalist.
wait, I
Yeah.
want to take a second for a second.
Okay.
So it's so dead on because if you think about it from how the creator or infinite intelligence is looking down at it, and he's got to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And the thing is there's nowhere in the Bible, you go back to the original Hebrew and Greek, there's nowhere in the Bible that says the word church. Not one goddamn motherfucking time. It says the New Testament, Jesus started an ecclesia. And I talk about this extensively. An ecclesia, by definition, is an assembly, a lawful assembly of sovereign people. That's why the kings and the governments were coming after the original ecclesia, the original Christians, because they did not because they started a church. Hell, they would have fucking helped them file the paperwork for it, just like they do now. Oh, 501c3, here, let me help you. I got all the paperwork. You can sign up and be our bitch all day long.
Mhm.
We'll run your shit. Oh, sure, tax exempt. Yeah, we'll give you a free pass as long as you do what we tell you to do. As long as you stay in that flow of being a church. As long as you keep running the mental asylum that keeps people in bondage, we'll sign you up.
Oh my God.
As soon as you start an assembly, a lawful assembly, like our First Amendment talks about, the right of the people to peacefully assemble. In other words, the right of the people to form an ecclesia like Jesus did. Now we got a fucking problem.
So if you just had a bunch of people just sitting around taking the step instead of going to church, they could and I want to kind of paint a picture for people watching is that an ecclesia would be like, listen, if they fucking just went to they all just gathered together to meditate, connect with him.
Well, basically, yeah. I mean, Jesus talked about it all the time. He said, you take away the key of knowledge because you enter not within yourselves. And those who were entering, you hindered them. He was talking to the Pharisees. Who were the Pharisees? They were the churchgoers of the time, the cult members of the time. That was the only church there was. In the Middle East in Jesus' time, the only church there was you were either part of the Pharisees or the Sadducees. But y'all went to the temple and did ritualistic blood sorcery, satanic sacrifices. When Isaiah said, don't do that in chapter 1 of Isaiah, Daniel said in chapter 7 of his book, he said, God said, I never told you to do that shit. I never one time instructed you to do it. Y'all did that yourself. You wanted to be like the world. You wanted a king. I said, you don't need a king. You got the 10 commandments. It's natural law. That's all you need. You don't need as soon as you start putting, no, we need man to rule us. We need a system of men. We need a bureaucracy. We need a king, someone to sit on a throne and tell us what to do. And God said, as soon as you start doing that, it's going to get fucked up. No, that's what we want. That's all you need to do is follow natural law. No. We need to be like the rest of the world. We need a king. And now we need churches. We need religion. And what do? They sacrifice everything they get their hands on. They fucking butcher it. And they claim that the blood from their butchering is what's saving them.
So what do you think? Like, okay, so these people, as they get through these motions, right, and they start to go through, okay, they start to awaken here. Okay, let's look at this let's give some tips if we can for people. And I know there's someone in the chat talking about it. To get that level of unreleased from the mind fuck, you know what I mean? To really, you know what I mean? Is there anything from your opinion? I know we talk about detox and this, in all seriousness, we talk about the ASEA and other things there. But as far as like really what people eat, is there things to that? Like if you're eating like meat or things like that, is that really prohibiting from what your connection to source to really get any real downloads? Or is what's in there really the thing that's really, just carnal mind, if you would?
Well, and I've got my phone pulled up to a certain scripture. I don't want to change it. So let me pull it up in paper Bible. I would guide people to go to, Paul talked about this, Romans chapter 14. And the whole chapter is about not passing judgment on certain things. Now here's the thing. And part of that is eating meat and things like that. The world is so fallen. And I think fallen human beings have become genetically predisposed to eating meat. And our fruits and vegetables, the soil has all been depleted of critical nutrients, right? So it's very difficult in the way the world is now to get all the nutrients that you need in a holistic way, by the way, not just, oh, I'm going to eat this and then I'm going to supplement. I'm telling you, as a naturopath, I'm telling you, I've even experimented on myself with it. When you go full vegetarian or full vegan, I'm sorry, and you eat no animal products whatsoever, and you try to just supplement the extra things, the body does not assimilate those nutrients the same way as it would if you're getting it holistic from a natural source, because everything works together synergistically. So Paul addresses this issue and he says, one person believes he may eat anything while the weak person eats only vegetables. Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains, and let not the one who abstains pass judgment on the one who eats, for God has welcomed him. Who are you to pass judgment on the servants of another? It is before his own master that he stands or falls, and he will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make him stand. He talks about the same thing with esteeming certain days over another. And then he says, hang on. Therefore, let us not pass judgment, this is verse 13, on one another any longer, but rather decide never to put a stumbling block or hindrance in the way of a brother. I know and am persuaded in the Lord Jesus Christ that nothing is unclean in itself, but it is unclean for anyone who thinks it's unclean. Again, the placebo effect. If you eat something you think it's going to make you unhealthy, it's going to make you unhealthy, right?
I think that's really what it boils down to. Yeah.
And then it says, verse 15, for if your brother is grieved by what you eat, you are no longer walking in love. But what you eat, do not destroy the one for whom Christ died. So do not let what you regard as good be spoken of as evil. For the kingdom of God is not a matter of eating and drinking, but of righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. Okay, so it's not about what you eat. It's about, like Jesus said, it's not that which enters a man that defiles him. It's that which comes out of a man that defiles him. So we could sit and argue all day until the cows come home about whether you should eat meat or not eat meat. Look, dude, if you don't want to eat meat, and I can tell you this too as a naturopath, I consult with some people that sometimes something that seems like it works for everybody else doesn't work for this one person. People are very unique because really the root of even your bodily experience, it comes from your spirit and your belief. This is how strong belief is. This is why you can literally manifest anything and everything. And you're literally manifesting exactly what's in your spirit right now. That's what you see in the world and your life around you is what you're manifesting, whether you're aware of it or not. We've talked about this extensively because there's a difference between Adam, the conscious mind, and Eve, the subconscious mind. Eve is the feminine, that which gives birth to the seed that's put within her. That's why consuming the bad seed was a problem. And then she started bearing children in pain. Bearing children in pain is manifesting things that cause you grief in your life. And Adam would have to till the soil by the sweat of his brow because now he's got to deal with the bad seeds that are springing up as weeds and thorns and thistles in his garden that used to be pure. Okay, so the whole allegory is very simple. All you got to do is open your eyes and read it for what it says. It's not like you have to be some real deep ass thinker and really smart to figure this out. You know, the parables are actually quite simple if you just open your eyes and get rid of the religious programming. So back to Isaiah 66 on that whole issue. My note in my Bible is talking about where it says, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne. Okay, so here's the notes of my Bible on that. The higher mind is the throne, and the body is the earth or the lower realms of consciousness. Now, where do I get that from? If you remember, the Bible was written in the East thousands of years ago, okay? So it's all based on the same symbolism as Eastern mysticism. And when they talk about the throne or the thrones in Eastern mysticism, it's always talking about higher realms of consciousness. That's where judgment comes from. Why? Because it fucking knows better. Of course, that's where judgment comes from, right? And then, so he goes on to say, where is the house that you build me? And where is the place of my rest? Keep in mind, remember, rest is Sabbath, which is number 7, right? And number 7 is the crown chakra. And guess what? No one sits on the throne except he who wears the crown. So until you get to a point where you have purified the spiritual body, the spiritual mind, whatever you want to call it, to the point where now you have a fully activated crown chakra, which by the way is the 144,000 saved in Revelation. And the way you get to that is if you look at the crown chakra, it has 1,000 points on it. Okay. And if you look at all the other 6 chakras before it, which by the way are the 6 pots of water that Jesus turned to wine, right? Okay. You add the points up on those 6 chakras, it's 144. So you take the 144, you fulfill all 144, you turn the water into wine, that opens the crown chakra. So it's 144 times 1,000, 144 points on the first 6 chakras times 1,000 points of the crown chakra, because the crown chakra is a magnifier, it's an amplifier. It's not really a chakra in a way, because it's that day of rest. It's that day of power. It's that day of knowing. So it's a multiplier. It's not an adder. It's a multiplier. Just like with Jesus when he fed the 5,000, right? Or the 4,000, depending on which version of the story you read. Now people are like, see, the Bible contradicts itself. No, it's telling you 2 different things with the same story. You have to know how to read the numerology. Okay.
So there is.
You really think the gospel writers didn't talk to each other? These were disciples. These were apostles. And he's like, no, it was 5,000. No, it was 4,000. Well, fuck you. I'm putting 5,000 in my book. Well, fine. I'm putting 4,000 in my book. Eat my ass. Come on, man. Like
there wasn't 104. Just for the record, there's not 144,000 chosen people.
No, the 144,000 is within you. Okay. That's what it represents is it's the turning of the water of the 6 pots of the water into wine within you, the 6 chakras, turning that water into wine, turning the ordinary into something extraordinary. And remember the people at the wedding at Cana who had that experience, they said usually, the best wine is served first. And then after people have drunk and now they're a little tipsy, they serve the weaker wine or the wine that's not as good last. But they said, Jesus, you've saved the best wine for last. So everything that you've experienced in religion that's their best wine, and it's not that good. Jesus saves the best wine for last. It's after you get out of religion, then you can turn the water into wine, which is the best wine that's saved for last. And now you want to get drunk on something, you're getting drunk on the Spirit, on truth. And so that's what opens that crown chakra to now where you sit on the throne, that your higher thoughts, the higher realms of consciousness, the thrones, those who wear the crown that sit on the throne, it's within you. The Christ consciousness now judges everything within you that's lower. And when you start getting to a point where you can judge yourself righteously, not religiously, correctly, rightly, righteously, correctly, then you will start to fix all the problems in your life. But it's not until that point. You keep going to church, waiting for somebody else to fucking do it. You keep going to church, trying to get somebody to tell you, well, how do I go to heaven? Dude, there ain't nowhere to go. There ain't nowhere to go. You got to create it. You got to build it. It's like, can you imagine someone graduates high school, they go out and they get a job and they're like, okay, now I got to go home. Where's my home? How do I go home? Did you buy one yet? Did you build one yet? No. Well, how do I go home? Where do I go home? I guess I got to go back to mom and dad's house. So they go back to religion where they started and they stay there until they figure out how to build their own home. You're muted.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Do you think it needs to go to the point where people are doing right now, which is to try to do what you're talking about, right? To really get a really clear aspect of God. Do they need to embark upon things like plant medicine in today's world? Mushrooms, ayahuasca, whatever that is.
Absolutely. God made it. What do you think it's there for? I love it how these religiously indoctrinated cult leaders will call they'll call cannabis, they call that the devil's lettuce. Like, oh, really? The devil made that, huh? The devil made that.
So order.
Did he make everything else too? What? Give me a list and show me in the Bible where it says the devil and on the 8th day the devil made cannabis. Fuck off. Like, it's like they have to do these ridiculous mental somersaults and make up the most asinine shit just to twist everything to get it to fit in their fucked up little concepts.
Yeah.
So things like mushrooms and ayahuasca that are really doing that, those are from how you see it, like, hey, you
right. But
gotta
it's
do
just like
that.
anything else. You can do it too much. Anything in
Right.
excess, it becomes wrong. It becomes a sin. That's why the Bible says, "Be not drunk
Yes.
with wine,
gotcha.
whereas excess." That's what it says. Don't become an alcoholic. Is all it says. You didn't say you can't drink wine. God made wine for a reason. There's a lot of reasons. But if you do too much of it, it'll cause problems for you. Fuck, you can drink too much water and kill yourself. That's actually a real known medical problem. It doesn't happen that often, but occasionally people drink themselves to death, and not with Jack Daniels, with water.
Yeah.
I think that's why plant medicine is really making a revival, because people are really realizing it. You know what? This is grown from the earth.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but then also too, it's like they're starting
For
to
a
break away
reason.
from their houses of worship,
Yep.
if you would. And
Yep.
they're like,
Mhm.
now where do I fucking go? You know what I mean? And that's what they're doing. So like now, then you have like, okay, like the Bible, for example, and then you have a book like The Secret. That's kind of like the New Age answer to the Bible. How would you, as far as like, so that was pivoted from what I understand more of as an action way to be able to do that. What do you think they missed out on something like that? Where did they miss the boat from your perspective when you take a look at, books like that to help people in their life?
Before you get to that,
Ronnie, it's DMT, not DHT.
Before you answer
And he
that,
sells
though,
it.
since we were talking about the psychedelics,
Yeah.
it would make sense that Jesus and the disciples were using plant medicines to retrieve a lot of information and to heighten their awareness. What's your
on the island of Patmos, where John the Revelator, who wrote the book of Revelation, where he was exiled, the island of Patmos is known for its hallucinogenic mushrooms. And so you read the book of Revelation, and I can tell you, as somebody who mentored with an Amazonian shaman for 5 years. Well, I take that back. He wasn't an Amazonian. He mentored with an Amazonian shaman. I mentored with him. But he was out or probably still is. I haven't talked to him in a while, but out in Hawaii. But I can tell you, as somebody who has used this stuff myself and learned all about plant medicine, experienced it myself, I read the book of Revelation, and there's no doubt in my mind, reading John's descriptions of what he saw, that he was using some sort of thing that they would call a hallucinogenic drug. Now, I don't like that term. Again, I think that's a smear by the cabal, because these aren't hallucinations.
Yeah.
Right.
These are out-of-body experiences, especially if you're talking DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Okay, because when you're doing that, you're not even here. I consider a hallucination like you're in your body, you're still in your body, you can walk around, you can touch things, and there are some drugs that cause hallucinations, and those ones are not helping you at all. If you're still in your body while you're hallucinating, and you're seeing, little green elves and pink elephants, and the banana on the countertop is talking to you, that you're not getting a spiritual experience, you're getting a fucked up hallucination. Okay. The stuff you're going to experience with the spirit molecule, or DMT, is literally an out-of-body experience. You're gone. You can experience a whole lifetime and not even, and you're only under for 15, 30 minutes, laying on a couch. You're not even aware of your body. It's not even there. You're gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a hallucination. Mm-hmm. Paul talks about this in the New Testament. He said, I knew about 14 years ago a man. Okay, now think of this. That's kind of, how every generation goes through, they have their own sayings, they spilled the beans, or we shot the bull, or, all these sayings that they have that don't mean exactly what you say. Well, back then, 2,000 years ago, when you would say, I knew a man who did this, okay? About this many years ago, I knew a man. That was a polite way of talking about yourself without actually saying me. It was me, right? Because then that was rude. That was like self-exoneration. So Paul said, I knew a man about 14 years ago who, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell, was caught up to the third heaven. So Paul was talking about himself even having these out-of-body experiences. Now, I can tell you, as someone who's done it with the assistance of plant medicine and just through meditation, that it doesn't necessarily mean that he was doing DMT or psilocybin or mushrooms or any of that stuff. He could have been doing it through transcendental meditation, which I'm a practitioner of. And that's one of the ways I started to break away from the religious system, and my third eye was open, and I started to see things for what they really were through entering within, like Jesus said to do. Jesus said in Matthew 6:22, if thine eye be single, your whole body will fill with light. Well, what's light? Light is truth, knowledge, wisdom. So if you practice the single eye, which is transcendental meditation, that's how, you enter within. That's your prayer closet, not, all the stuff that religion teaches you. That's not a prayer closet. Now, I will tell you, though, I've had some really, really good experiences using DMT. I've also had some really bad experiences. It's a powerful thing. And one of the ways I knew for a fact when I finally figured out it was not some sort of hallucination is when I started having entities follow me back from the other side in my everyday life, days and weeks and months later, showing up, and other people saw them in my house. Okay, I shit you not. So it wasn't like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't, whatever you want to call it, because other people were now experiencing
that you went into another dimension, so to speak, and then
if that's what you want to call it. Yeah, I don't know
whatever you want to call that.
But whatever it was that
was
portal had opened.
Right, we'll call it a portal. And are you saying that these energies were malevolent or benevolent?
Both. Yeah. So you do have to be careful. It's not. So honestly, I can kind of see a point for making it illegal, although it does kick against every principle of freedom that I stand and believe for. So ultimately, I would say, no, you can't make it illegal. It's natural. It comes from the earth. You can't make it illegal. As long as someone's not harming someone else, you can't. If there's no victim, there's no crime. You can't make it illegal, but they do. Okay. So, but you have to be careful. It's like anything else, I mean, honestly, alcohol is far more dangerous. I mean, look at how many thousands of people are killed every year because of that. Hundreds of thousands of people. But they make that legal. They just control it. And I see a point in controlling things like that because it can become dangerous, Yeah. You don't, here's the thing. Even though I don't think drinking a glass of wine is evil. It's not bad. It's not going to hurt you. In fact, it's good for you. You drink a glass of red wine every day. It'll actually increase your heart health and your cardiovascular health. But if you drink a whole bottle a day, every day, then you're probably going to end up with cirrhosis of the liver. So, it's like, you don't give wine and a gun and some shrooms to a 5-year-old. Like, we have to have discernment. You know what I mean? So God has created a lot of things that have purpose. They're tools, but you still have to have discernment and act responsibly with everything.
So not only was Jesus rich, he also used psychedelics.
He was tripping.
100%.
So the burning bush. So like when they saw a burning bush, for example,
he was really burning bush.
They were seeing a burning bush. Like they were like, this is cool.
No, the burning bush is the pinto. No, the burning bush was Moses burning some bush. No.
You know what? Maybe right.
Could be.
All right. So all right. Moral of this story is everybody should be on plant medicine of sorts, right?
As long as it's under control
environments. As long as there's no victims.
This is why for thousands of years they've had shamans, those who were very experienced with it, who had gone down the deep dives of the darkest holes with it, because it is going to expose whatever's in here will be exposed. And that's where the bad experiences come from. But it doesn't mean that it's not dangerous and can't cause problems, because you start bringing the other realm into this realm, it's going to cause a lot of problems. There's a reason there's a separation, that there's a veil there, okay? Because the two worlds don't mix. That's why Paul said in Romans 8:7 that the carnal mind is enmity against God. It's not even subject to the law of God, and neither can it be. The two worlds are separate. You're having a separate experience. That's why all these religious people who want to try to take things in this carnal world, in this material 3D matrix, and make it somehow apply to things in the spiritual realm, they don't apply. They interact, but they have nothing to do with each other. It's a separate experience. It's like trying to compare going to Disney World on vacation and what you do there and in the privacy of your hotel to what you do while you're at work. They're two separate things. They have nothing to do with each other. They can't at work, that you can't come back from vacation in Disney World and say, hey, you were getting drunk in your hotel room, and maybe you did something stupid in front of your kids, because you were drunk. We're going to fire you from your job because you did something drunk at Disney World in the privacy of your hotel room in front of your kids. Can't do it. It has nothing to do with work. You see what I'm saying? Just like that's what Paul was talking about when he said the carnal mind is enmity against God. It's not subject to the law of God, neither can it be. Anybody know about things being subject to a law? That's called jurisdiction in the legal world. So what Paul's saying is the things of the carnal mind and the carnal world, God in the spiritual realm doesn't even have jurisdiction over those things. God isn't saying don't do certain things in the carnal realm because somehow it's going to piss him off or make him mad. Now he's going to punish you. That's what religion teaches. No, Paul was saying, look, even though these things over here, it's not even under the jurisdiction of the spiritual realm because it's a completely separate experience. But I'm telling you, if you do certain things in certain ways, there's going to be consequences for it and you're going to suffer. So don't do it. You're not going to piss God off. You might make God sad. Kind of like it's kind of like this. If you go out on your bike, your kid, 12 years old, riding around in the woods, and then your mom tells you, hey, don't be ramping over any big stuff or trying to ramp over logs and stuff. You're going to hurt yourself, right? And then you go and do it anyway, and you get hurt, and then you come back home and you're all busted up. Your mom's not mad at you like she wants to punish you. Like, she's sad. She's hurt for you. Like, I told you not to do this. Look at what happened. There's consequences for doing stupid shit. Did you learn your lesson? Right. And that's really how God treats things in this world. The drug addict that's homeless on the side of the road. God is not pissed off at that person because they're shooting up in a gutter somewhere or smoking cigarettes or drinking 40s from the gas station because that's all they can afford to try to survive on. And they're so depressed that they have to escape this world with alcohol. God's not going to send that person to hell. God pities that person. God wants to have mercy. God wants to reach down and help that person. But the thing is, we have free will. That's how much of a gentleman God is. He's not just going to step down and intervene. He says, okay, it's your life. Do what you want with it, but be careful, because there's consequences for doing certain things. This experience over here in 3D in the physical world, it's like the parable of the prodigal son. When the spirit leaves the spirit realm and enters into the matrix, into the 3D realm, the physical world, God says, okay, here, look, this is all your stuff. Take it and go. But when, try to hurry back. He doesn't stop the prodigal son. He gives him his inheritance. And what does he do? He goes into the world. He does his thing. He learns all his hard lessons, and he finds himself out there. He squanders his entire inheritance from father. He finds himself in a fucking pig pit, shoveling shit, broke as hell. And finally, he's come to the end of himself, and he's like, yeah, you know what? I probably should have listened to father. I fucked it all up. I'm going back to father's house. And what happens when he did? Father welcomes him with open arms. He's not pissed off because he was out there banging hookers and doing blow and shooting up in an alley somewhere, or going to strip clubs or going to the bar. He wasn't pissed about that. He was just happy that his son was okay and came back home, came to his senses. This isn't about right or wrong in the sense that religion teaches it. That's why it's called the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because they try to teach you what's good and what's evil, and they don't fucking know their ass from a hole in the ground. All they're doing is beating you down into submission and under control, and they keep you in shame, guilt, fear, and condemnation. Now, not only is your life fucked up and still fucked up, it fixed nothing, but now you added the fear, guilt, shame, and condemnation on top of it, and all you got to do is go back to Father's house.
Yep.
That's it. That's it.
What was the purpose, from your opinion, of the crucifixion? So the concept, or was it a real thing? And what was the actual purpose of it? Why was all of that necessary? It
was necessary because God required it. And when I say God required it, which God am I talking about? The God of this world. Okay. So
Mm.
that's the whole thing. The church gets messed up. Religion gets messed up. They think that Source, the creator of all that is, was, and ever will be, required ritualistic blood sorcery sacrifice. So he had to send his son to do it. Remember John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, that whosoever shall believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Well, first of all, the word they translated as world doesn't mean all the people of the world. The word world there means system. In other words, the entire matrix, the realm. God so loved the realm itself that was created because it was fallen that he sent his son to do this. Okay. Why did he have to send his son to do it? Was it because he required it? I don't remember a damn thing in John 3:16 that said, for God so loved the world and he required ritualistic blood sorcery sacrifice that he sent his only begotten son. It doesn't say that. Right? Who required it?
Right.
Go read Daniel. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Just I laugh everything. It's just like Daniel chapter 7. We've done this before, but where the hell is it at? Where the hell is it at? Hello. Or not Daniel. I'm sorry. I keep saying Daniel, and I'm messing it up. I've been saying Daniel this whole. I'm sorry, guys. I've been saying Daniel this whole episode. It's not Daniel. It's Jeremiah. People are like, "What's he talking about?" Daniel 7, Jeremiah chapter 7. I don't know where my head's at. God said in Daniel, why is my head stuck on Daniel? Jeremiah 7 verse 21. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Put your burnt offerings under your sacrifices and eat flesh. In other words, take your ritualistic blood sorcery sacrifices and shove them up your ass. Verse 22, for I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. God said, I never fucking told them to do this. Who told you to do this? Just like when God came down to talk to Adam and Eve, they were now full of fear, guilt, shame, and condemnation. So they hid themselves. And God's like, where the fuck you at? And Adam's like, well, we were afraid because we were naked. And God said, who told you were naked? I didn't tell you that. I made you that way. Why are you full of fear, guilt, shame, and condemnation over something I made you? Why? Oh, because the snakes that you talk to in the world told you about what's good and what's evil. The church. That's the only fucking place you're going to go learn about what's good and what's evil. And it's going to make you enter into fear, guilt, shame, and condemnation. So now you got to hide yourself from God. And so because now you're hiding yourself from God, now you got to go create false gods because God can't see you anymore because you've hidden yourself from him in fear, shame, guilt, and condemnation. So now you start serving the God of this world, pretending like it's the true God. And that God requires ritualistic blood sorcery sacrifice. So in order to break the spell, God sent Jesus Christ once and for all time to break that spell within the consciousness of humanity. Because it was required. Adam and Eve gave their title deed of this earth over to Satan. Once Satan had the title deed, now he's the God of this world. It's his. Remember, Satan took Jesus up on the mountain in the desert. He said, look at all this whole world. If you bow down and worship me, I will give you this whole world. Well, how is it Satan's world to give if he's not the God of the world? Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. So Jesus fulfilled the law. What law? Satan's law. Somebody had to pay the penalty. Jesus was so gracious. God was so gracious as to offer himself up for that penalty that was required. That's the only way you're getting out from under this law is if something perfect is sacrificed. And so it was done once and for all time so that now there is no more need. Not even Satan can hold this over your head because now you've got the blood of Jesus that paid for it once and for all time. I don't have to keep going and sacrificing animals over and over and over to appease this bloodthirsty God. Jesus put a fucking stop to it. And religion wants to keep him on the cross. Religion wants to keep talking about the blood and sacrifice and this. You have to have blood, enter into fear, guilt, shame, and condemnation all the time. They want to keep you there. Why do you think the Vatican keeps Jesus on the cross all of it? It's a fucking crucifix. I will smash every crucifix I ever see if I get my hands on it. It's a vile abomination. They want to keep that ritualistic blood sorcery sacrifice alive. They want to keep He who paid the ultimate final price to put an end to the sick, sadistic, ritualistic blood sacrifice. They want to keep it alive. They want to keep him on the cross. They don't want him
That
risen.
is for sure.
Wow.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was not God's source. It was not the true God's requirement. It was the God of this world's requirement for ritualistic blood sorcery sacrifice. That's why Paul spent so many books in the New Testament. He talked about this is done once and for all time. He said the law was a curse. He called it the curse of the law. You don't need to do this. Jesus took care of it once and for all time. It's done. Stop the insanity. Get your head right. Go back to Father's house. Realize that there was never any such thing as learning what's good and evil. That was all an illusion, and they create this fear, guilt, shame, and condemnation to put you in bondage. Now, should you go? Does that mean okay? Well, there's no such thing as good and evil. I'm just going to go stab my neighbor, dude. Come on, use your head. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the church where they pull you into this system. Of thinking these things over here are good, these things over here are evil, and neither one of them are good or evil. It's a false system they created. That's what I'm talking about. That's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree itself, all the fruit from the tree itself is a lie. It's an illusion. It puts you in a state of mind and a state of being that keeps you perpetually in fear, shame, guilt, and condemnation. Look what happened to Adam and Eve. As soon as they took of it, what happened to them? Fear, shame, guilt, and condemnation, so that they hid themselves from truth. God is truth. They hid themselves from truth, and truth couldn't find them anymore.
That's some crazy. Yeah. That's some crazy fucked up interpretation. Brother, we are winding down here. What about some love and leave us kind of like wisdom as we move towards the next show?
Well, I'm going to be talking about a lot this year about one of the things that they fucked up was the calendar, and a lot of that is to keep your consciousness disoriented. And so I'm actually forming a coalition here soon. Once I get everything straight, I'm meeting with some historians, mathematicians, and astronomers to make sure we have this calendar 100% accurate. Okay. Wonderful. And we're going to start the calendar year 0 from the actual day that Jesus was born, which on the Gregorian calendar, which is what we use now, is technically 3 BC, not 0. Or, there was no year 0, by the way, but it wasn't even 180. It wasn't the first year. They were off by 3 years on that. Okay. Where they put the calendar. It's amazing because they were supposedly set that calendar from the day Jesus was born, right? And they were 3 years off on it. So technically this year is 2026. Well, when we get to the vernal equinox. But so we're gonna make sure we fix all that stuff, but I want to make sure it's right mathematically, astronomically, and historically. So and then after we do that, then we're going to form this coalition. We're going to, there's no law in the United States officially that says what calendar we have to use. So we're going to petition Congress with this once we get it straight and get this coalition, and the more people, the better, because you put a lot of pressure on Congress like that. We can get this calendar changed, and we can go back to the universal calendar of 13 months with 28 days. Every day is always this. If I say I'm coming over next month on the 1st, that's a Sunday, because the 1st always happens on Sunday. If I'm coming over on the 14th, it's a Saturday, because the Saturday is always on the 14th, no matter what month it is. I mean, it's really simple. I don't know why they fucked it up.
Really nice and easy.
Now, while you're doing all that, Ethan, can you ensure and get rid of daylight savings, please?
Yes, that's another abomination we're getting rid of. And all of that is done intentionally to keep you off kilter. And all these cabal holidays that are stuffed right at the end of the year. You got 3-4 major holidays right at the end of the year. Everybody's scrambling around trying to get together and go see 3 different fucking families and traveling all over the place. And then that's Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then a few weeks later, we're doing it again for Christmas. And then a week later, we're doing it again for their sun god, Perihelion Day, New Year's Day. And then we're doing that. It's like, guys, come on. We got to stop.
We have to stop.
It's got to stop. We need to get the peace balance. Look, why do we have to have certain days to get together with family? You should be getting together with family whenever you want, and you should be doing it often.
Exactly. Happy New Day, everybody.
Every day is Thanksgiving. Why do we have just one day out of the whole year that's Thanksgiving?
Amen,
totally
brother.
We got to ditch these cabal holidays, man.
And
Yes.
we're gonna keep driving it home every week till
And
we all do it.
actually, for those of you that are watching, make sure to stay tuned because I have a live immediately after Ethan's show with Dina Jump. Many of you may know her.
Nice.
He's with Jason and
Yeah.
Danielle Matthews, and we're going to be talking about this exactly. So that was a great little
Yeah, stay tuned on that
intro.
one. You're flying solo.
Yeah.
Taking a break. Executive
Good
producer.
stuff. Yeah, and I didn't get all the way through Isaiah chapter 66 on that, but just to summarize the last few verses that I was going to read on that, God basically did say in there, he said, you know, all these things I made, how you going to build me a house? What house are you going to build me? And then he said, but to the man I will look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit and trembleth at my word. And then he goes on to talk about this ritualistic blood sacrifice thing. He said, he that killeth an ox, he's talking about the set, because they used to do that. They'd take these oxes into the temple and slaughter him. It says, it's as if he slew a man. He that sacrificeth a lamb, as if he cut off a dog's neck. He that offereth an oblation, as if he offered swine's blood. He that burneth incense. That doesn't mean you can't burn incense. He's talking about them doing it in the temple with their rituals, right? And then he said, as if he blessed an idol. He said, yea, they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delighteth in their abominations. So we're getting rid of all the abominations. We're getting rid of the Cabal holiday abominations. We're getting rid of the calendar abomination, the daylight savings abomination. All these things are fucking idols in the temple. Where's the temple? Right here.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of all the idols in the temple, the traditions of men, the doctrines and commandments of men, the holidays of men, all of it. Bye-bye. It's time to get back to the real awakening.
It's all it does is stress people out for the most part.
We're championing along on this. All right, listen, everybody, we got a boogie and off to the next one. Ethan, we love you, brother. Again, thank you for your service as you always do.
Come back at 11:30.
Come back at 11:30. Check out April, what she's got going on. EthanLucas.com. Support our brother here. You're buying stuff from everywhere anyway. Take a look at what he's going on. He's a naturopath. He's dedicated. He's disciplined. He's done the research to make sure that the shit you do ingest and do take and you do for yourself, mind, body, and spirit is really there. He does test himself to do.
I wouldn't promote this if it weren't true, because as a naturopath, I study the whole spectrum of everything, including plant medicine. And if this weren't the foundational thing that's going to make everything work better, I wouldn't tell you so.
There you go.
There you go.
You heard it there from the anti-pastor himself. So, all right. All right, my brother. Love you. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much. Quickly, if everybody could just hit the like button, we would love it if you would share the video. All three of us would greatly appreciate your love. Thank you so much for tuning in. And together with Ethan Lucas's help, we are turning the universal key to global harmony and creating a unified world. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, tune in often. Tell all your friends. And most importantly, may all your beautiful dreams come true. Many blessings.